the cloud. Okay, there we go. All right. Case 16 in the book of Equanimity. Mayoku thumps his staff. It's also in the Blue Cliff record case as case 31. And the cases are pretty much copy and paste in both versions. But this is, I think this is an interesting case. I think these are all interesting to me because, yeah. This was the one that was supposed to be done last week because the one we did before was 15. He also plants his mattock. All right. Preface to the assembly. Pointing to a deer, it becomes a horse. Grubbing the soil, it becomes gold. On the tongue, wind and thunder are raised. Between the eyebrows, a bloody blade is stored. While sitting, success or failure is perceived. While standing, life and death are examined. Tell me, what kind of samadhi is this? I think that's a very nice setup for what this main case is about. The main case, attention. Mayoku arrived at Shokei's place holding his staff. He walked around 3 times around the meditation seat of Shokei and thumped his staff once. Shokei said, "Right, right." Mayoku afterward went to Nansen's, walked 3 times around the meditation seat of Nansen and thumped his staff once. Nansen remarked, "Wrong, wrong." Mayoku said, "Shokei said right. Why do you say wrong?" Nansen said, "For Shokei, it was right. For you, it is wrong. What comes from the power of wind in the end becomes broken and crumbled." Appreciatory verse. Right and wrong. Watch out for the trap. It seems to be putting down, seems to be approving. Who's the elder is difficult to tell. Who's the younger is difficult to tell. He knows to release when it's time. What's special about my snatching away? Thumping the golden staff, standing all alone, circling the rope mat thrice, he plays at leisure. Being agitated, a sangha spawns right and wrong. I reflect that a demon's seen in a withered skull. So the minute you hear any sort of division, any sort of duality, beware. There's something going on with that story when we start separating right and wrong and trying to be right about something. So it's hard to tell from the story why he did it the first time, why he walked in, circumnavigated. So the circumnavigation in Zen tradition is pretty traditional. I remember I attended a Jukai ceremony back in 2002, 2003 that was being conducted by the Zenji from Sojiji. So Zenji is the highest ranking priest. So from the 2 main monasteries in Japan is Eihiji and Sojiji. And all of our traditions come out of those 2 temples, those 2 monasteries. So the highest ranking priest came to Los Angeles, and he was at Zenchuji, and he was conducting a Jukai ceremony, and there were several people participating. And there were several of the women were in tears afterward, mostly just the women, because in Japan, for the monks, the monks circumnavigated, because part of the ceremony, all the Jukai participants, all the people receiving Jukai, were in the center, and the monks were circumnavigating around them 3 times and chanting. That does not, at that time, it may still be true, that never happened for women in Japan. So these women were being treated as equals here in in California, Los Angeles, were receiving a high-ranking treatment by the monks in Los Angeles that they would not have gotten in Japan. So that circumnavigation is important, is an important symbol in Zen Buddhism. So we don't know why Mayoku decided to walk into Shokei's space wherever he was and circumnavigate 3 times. My guess is that it was in response to, it was an answer to a koan. So he had been given some statement and he was now presenting his understanding or presenting his experience of the koan to Shokei. Shokei approved or said, right. So Shokei then decides to go show off to Nansen and marches in and gives the same presentation to Nansen. Now Nansen may have understood what Mayoku was trying to do, but the fact that he was just duplicating, he had now attached to a particular answer, attached to a particular presentation that had been approved, so he was going to go spread his approval around to all the teachers. Oh, I got this right. Let me just go in. And Nansen very quickly shut that down. Wrong, dude. That was right for Shokei. Wrong for you, because things have moved on. Reality has flowed. You're not in the same place as you were when you answered that, when you did that presentation the first time, for whatever reason you did it. This is a new day, new time, new teacher, new you. This rubber stamping of rightness does not work in reality. So, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? So, however, is this right and wrong really what we perceive it to be? Because I love the way they set this up. While sitting, this is in the preface, while sitting, success or failure is perceived. And once it gets to that point of being perceived, it's now a story in your head. And we have the story running, especially if you're sitting sesshin. There's some sesshin sessions in which you feel really good. It's like, oh, that was good. Yeah, that was Zen. And other periods of during sesshin when it was like, oh, that was great. That was horrible. That was utter failure. But it's all practice. It's all reality. It's all life. It's all your exception. The only thing that gets in the way is the story that you make up about it, which happens once it becomes perceived. That's that sitting, and we've all had that. What we think is ideal sitting when we don't perceive anything, when we suddenly come to after sitting for a while going, oh, I had no thought, I had no idea, what no time was, or the bell rings and brings you out, and that somebody's like, oh wow, that was good, that was so non-thinking. And we congratulate ourselves, and then we sit down again and it doesn't work a second time. So it's really about letting go of all those judgments, because good, bad, up, down, walking, sitting, living, breathing, all of it is practice. The stories that we tell about it really take us out of that realization. So Mayoku got stuck. He got caught in the addiction of being approved, and was trying to hang on to that, trying to duplicate that, with everything wherever he went. So these are obviously very, very famous teachers. They're all students of Baso, and we hear about these two teachers all the time, and especially in koan study. But you can't get caught. You can't get stuck, because there's no place to get stuck. That stuckness is now in your head. It's in your perception. It's in the story about reality and not reality itself. So this is the whole thing about dropping away body and mind. you got to dropping off. You got to let it go, because that experience was just in that particular moment, in that particular time. It certainly seems to have gotten proved, but was it? Was it right? Because if it was right, then it's possible to be wrong. Because once you set up that dualism, both of those are raised at the same time. You can't have that one without the other. You can't have right without a comparison to something else that is wrong. So, was indeed Shokei's right an approval, or was it a test? Most likely a test. Beware of approval from the Zen master. It's probably got barbs.
I might about to get hit around the head.
Yes. And then Nansen, of course, challenges him further, because he thinks he got approval from Shokei, but he got one side of it. And so Nansen gives him the rest of it. Wrong. But then Byoku's confused. Shokei said I was right. What? How could you? How could you not approve? And was it about? It's taking, because ultimately, as a Zen student, if it is said to be a goal, you and you alone know that you've experienced your enlightenment. Only you know about that experience. Only you know, what that sense is, what that experience is. Not even a teacher can tell you. No, they can see the symptoms of it. They can see how you behave. They can see how you operate as a result of that experience, but they can't tell you what your experience is. So this looking for approval outside of yourself is wrong. It's just wrong. Because your reality is right where you stand. Your experience of that reality is only in you, in your direct experience of it. And looking for that approval is where we go astray, because then we get addicted to that. It's like, once the teacher says I'm good, I'm enlightened, then I know it. But do you? If someone else is telling you, and that's what you know, what do you have? You have someone else's approval. But, and this is, I like the example, because was it in this one or the other commentary? The Buddha, sitting, who decided to just sit under the Bodhi tree until he realized what this great way is. He wasn't going to move, and so the devil Mara, tempted him with all kinds of things. You can rule the world. You can have all the virgins that you want. You can have, the list of all the things that people consider to be good. And Buddha's response was, "Not today, Satan." I'm staying here until I get this. So he did.
Gary is the author.
Gary. Oh, Shishin Wick. Yeah.
He tells that story of Buddha and Mara, and Buddha's answer was really good.
Yeah.
Something about the earth approves me.
Yes.
And why seek approval? He said.
He said it in here, which is much better. Because I'm saving the talk about Buddhism. We're going to celebrate Buddha's birth around April 8th, whatever the closest Saturday is to that. Because when Buddha was, the story about Buddha's birth is that he was born from the side of his mother, and he took 7 steps and pointed to the heaven and the earth, because he was able to talk instantly as when he was born. Um, you know, the heaven above and the earth below know that I alone am the world honored one. And he's talking about that the earth is my witness. The heavens are my witness. I don't need anybody else's approval to know what it is I have realized. So that is the ultimate goal. So if you're only enlightened when you're with people who approve of you, what do you have? You have something that can be taken away by the very next teacher that tells you you're wrong. But if you have this, no one can take it away from you. No one else knows your direct experience or how it is you are now moved to operate in the world as a result of that experience. So then the Buddha had to figure out, because his greatest challenge, the other half of the enlightenment experience was, now what? Now that I have this experience, what do I do with it? And basically, Indra intervened at that point and said, get up and go teach. And the first people you need to teach are the friends who are not going to approve of you because they're the other ascetic practitioners that you just disrespected by giving up their practices. Because he had done the ascetic, he had that grain of rice a day and fell into the river as a result. Got saved by a woman who barely gets mentioned. So that experience, that determination to do this practice until you have the realization that you're there to get, beyond the shadow of the doubt by yourself, before it's given to somebody else. And Tenshin said it in one of his talks. He said, I had to be enlightened for myself before I was approved by my Zenbu Roshi. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. That was the first time I heard that, and I'm sure he'd probably said it dozens of times before I actually heard it. But because at that point I was ready to hear that this practice is my job, not anybody else's. I'm not doing this for anybody else's approval or anybody else's, giving me Raksu or any of the other symbols that go with it, which are all the forms. They have their purpose, but they're meaningless. So why do this? And people, you do that. You see people make decisions about practice based on what they like about what they see or what they don't like about what they see. And Shishin talks about someone sitting and not sitting with them because they didn't like the forms. And okay, it's like, so maybe the forms aren't comfortable. Maybe the forms are different, and they are different in different places because there's no central body that regulates how all the forms are done. They're loosely based on what we've learned from the tradition that Zenbu Roshi tried very hard to teach us the forms of Heiji and Sojiji and gave up on some of them because we just couldn't get it. But the practice had to become American because we're not Japanese. So there was some.
Just to be the history, because even when it came from India, it became Chinese, and then it tends to adapt to each culture.
It does. And actually, co-ops, the culture that it enters, or the culture co-ops Buddhism, because you can't, separate Taoism and Buddhism after it gets through China for 1,000 years. And then you really, the Shinto and the Buddhist traditions in Japan are complementary to each other because they use each other for different purposes. And in America, it's only been here a little under 200 years. So it's still in the process of assimilating to the multiple cultures that are here. And it will do that after a while. For now, we're hanging on to a lot of old stuff, but none of it has anything to do. None of the forms has anything to do with realization. The forms are something to hang on to. They hold the space. They are the kind of the incubator, if you will, for the practice to happen. But they're not the practice itself. The practice itself is, each of us sitting down and working on our realization over and over and over and over again, and not getting stuck with someone else's approval. It's really about realizing it with beyond the shadow of a doubt within yourself. That's the only way this really works. That mind-to-mind transmission that is talked about is really about that the student getting to the point of standing on their own, being able to forward the practice without their teacher anymore. And that's what all the ceremonies are talk about. Getting stuck in right and wrong, or approval or disapproval, is a trap. It becomes an addiction. It's a Zen sickness and find a lot of students who will go from teacher to teacher, teacher to teacher, exactly what Mayoku is trying to do, seeking their approval, and that's usually where it gets lost. Because there's no way for a teacher to know that. Because they can't tell you what your experience is. They can see the results of it, but each of us doesn't know what the other is experiencing. Only you know. Only you can truly stand in your own truth when it comes to what it is you've experienced in sitting, in life, in practice, in everything that goes with this practice. So, yeah, I love this other line. Between the eyebrows, a bloody blade is stored. It's rather graphic, but yeah, trying to be something for somebody else is really going to just leaves you with that approval, disapproval. I'm right because someone said I was right, and not because I realized it myself.
When I read this Koan, what occurred to me was the tendency to want to apply the same solution to the same seemingly similar set of facts, and not approaching a different situation freshly, which may involve a different response. There's so many things that we do are sort of look the same as the thing we did yesterday, but they aren't, because you never put the same hand in the same river, and so you're experiencing it freshly every time, and that's what's, I think, to me that was another point of the Koan was
very much.
Can't do this, same response, same stimuli, because it's never the same.
Yeah, you can't rubber stamp enlightenment, because you're right, it's not stuck. It's not, it can't be, codified, if you will, and concretized in any particular form, because it's about being in this flow constantly. And that flow means you gotta let go of the stuff you're hanging on to. The context for this right and wrong is a little bit missing in this koan, but certainly Mayoku's attachment to his answer, which is pretty dramatic. I mean, how rude to walk in to the middle of somebody's space unannounced to circle 3 times, stop, thump your stab. Just think about actually doing that. And you know, I could see Nansen just going, and
What's your point?
what's your point? Why are you here? What are you doing?
I think of trying to show off.
Yeah.
That would be me.
Yeah.
I'm showing off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little, certainly these days it's not something, but even if we may have different things that we're attached to, we'll go in and demonstrate our understanding of the sound of one hand clapping because we got approval from one teacher. What people don't seem to realize is that there are many answers to that particular goal. And getting stuck with one answer is not what the point is. What is that sound? What is that practice? What is that answer right here, right now? Not last week when you went to a different teacher, or the year before. What is it today? How does it apply? How does your practice apply to this moment, these circumstances, this situation? Getting stuck in rubber stamping those answers. Certainly, life looks similar than it did, but it's not the same. And to actually take that moment and sit in this moment and realize again, over and over and over again, because that realization is constant, and isn't stuck back in when it felt good or when it got approved the time before. It's how are you applying this here and now, in this moment, in this situation, in this room, with these people. So for Shoke, it was right. For you, dude. Yes.
I have a question. Earlier you talked about a story where a group of Japanese women in the United States were involved in a yokai ceremony,
Uh-huh.
and the Buddhist masters, whatever, authorities, whatever, came in circling down because they don't do consciousness assigned to reset inequality.
Mm-hmm.
And the women reacted tears. Was that like tears of disbelief, tears of joy, tears of what the hell's going on here,
Yeah.
tears of
Gratitude?
Yeah.
or a combination. I mean, each individual shed tears for different reasons. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the truth is that I never spoke to any of these women, so I have no idea. I don't know what that experience was. I was told that later. So my knowledge of that is third hand at best.
Was it a question of inclusivity?
Well, I think
thought that was what you were
the
thinking.
way it was described by the woman who told me about it, and this was her point of view, was this was a gesture of inclusivity and equality that they would not have, that they did not believe would have happened to them had they been in Japan.
Mm.
Because I don't know how they, because in the United States we do the Jukai ceremony the same for everyone. But I know that has not been true for previous cultures, and certainly there've never been any female Zenjis as far as I know. No female has ever risen to that level. So there are high-ranking Buddhist nuns in Japan, but there's probably some residual discrimination from Buddhist time, because even though the Buddha included women, they were still considered to be lower ranking than even the most junior of the male monks. And that was, a dictate of the culture at the time. And but unfortunately, it remained for a couple thousand years. It doesn't start to get, the male-female, egalitarianism doesn't start to take hold until it gets here to the United States, because we stop differentiating between, and we've had, we've had to deal with other issues as a result of including women, because now we have the whole sexual component that has come in, because that was part of the reason for the separation. Even though they were part of Buddha Sangha, they didn't live together. They had there was still lots of separation that went on and continued into China. And certainly women were not considered equal in China, even though China was much more egalitarian than India ever, probably still is. They still have remnants of the caste system that are still in place. We're a little better about it. Still got a long way to go, because I think that, who was I speaking to yesterday? It's still hard for me to, I have to remember that it wasn't until, women's suffrage in the 1920s that women can even vote. So, they've been always the last group of people that make it to that level of inclusiveness. And so in Japan, much worse than it is here, and for these women to experience what they were told they would never experience as a Japanese woman must have been emotional for them. So my imagination, I don't know that firsthand. I don't know that from as direct experience for myself, or did I hear it? I heard it third hand from a Japanese American woman who understood, was trying to explain, both cultures to me. So sorry for less.
And did this particular ceremony, did it happen like in the 1970s?
No, this was 2003. 2000.
Because I know that for women in the United States, everything kind of goes to openings and
Yeah.
after that, stuff.
Yeah, deliberately. I mean, the Reagan administration did much to undo the women's rights movement deliberately, and he hired a woman to do it. I remember her very well, because
Phyllis Schlafly.
Was that her name?
She's the one who opposed equal rights amendment.
Yes, that's the one.
Phyllis Schlafly.
Yeah. So yeah, the Equal Rights Amendment was moving. They were trying to get that passed as an amendment to the Constitution, and it was gaining momentum. And she killed it. I don't think it wasn't single-handed, but there, because
She was absolutely the figurehead.
Yeah.
The whole backlash against feminism.
Yeah.
Still here today. Absolutely stronger than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So 70s. I mean, the 70s were kind of the conclusion of several civil rights movements that had been going on since since the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Culminating in all the violence of the 60s, and then the 70s hit, and people thought we've made it. We're now we've got all this equality going on. Then Reagan killed the women's rights movement, and here we are today.
Well, actually, things are happening today. I'm surrounded by density. People smell my glasses. I'm like the only old part, and most of them are their 20s, maybe 30s, and especially gender studies or whatever, they're not buying, what the current regime is trying to push back.
Oh, yeah.
They're not buying it at all.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I think as far as understanding how gender plays in females, discrimination against females, they're like way, way advanced in their thinking of exactly what is gender.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, everybody's getting sex change operations or anything like that. They certainly they're just like light years ahead of even the thinking of the women in the 70s.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
incredible. And they keep asking me, what happened in the 70s? What were you doing? And I can tell them the things that started
Yeah.
and the things that fizzled out. But there is really definite connection there. And
Well, that's good to know.
yeah.
And so hopefully the future of this country is in much better hands.
I think the same thing with everything. It's like you can't have a nation full of all these different kinds of people and then expect to push them back into this box again.
Yeah.
It's impossible to do. You can't do it. It won't happen.
It won't happen.
It
Yeah.
can't.
That doesn't stop them from trying.
There's votes in it.
Pardon me?
There's votes in it. There's many, many votes that you can garnish by making it look as if you can do that.
Yeah, and I understand the vote part, but I'm just reporting what people are thinking
Yeah.
and saying.
Well, and I think that that for changes, we don't do, as human beings, we don't do change very well. People want to hold on to what felt secure for them, for what they thought was their position of power, and so I think that's what we saw, in the election, was people hanging on to very old ideas of what they thought should be the status quo, or should be, what type of people are in power and what type of people, because there were just a lot of, that's what I keep, and again, third hand, I'm hearing that's why a lot of black men voted for Trump, was that alpha male type, positioning that was.
It wasn't that many though.
Well,
It was marginal.
it's marginal, but when you're
black
talking
wasn't
about,
that many.
African Americans are only 13% of the population, so it's a small group anyway, and when you have any percentage of that.
It doesn't surprise me because even in the 70s, when we were complaining about the alpha male thing,
Yeah.
in the anti-war movement, the Black Power movement,
Yeah.
all of the movements, they didn't include women.
No.
No, it was like, there's still our little helpmate.
Oh, the Black Panthers were very sexist.
So,
Wanted women to
so
serve.
Yeah.
it's really only the women who suddenly realize that this thing is like universal. And it's just, and then of course you get into all the gender disparity and it's even worse.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to be able to step back in that box unless we end up like, with a regime like some kind of Taliban.
Yeah.
Some really
Well, I certainly
horrible
hope
thing
not.
like that.
Yeah, I hope not. I'm hoping that what we're seeing is a temporary setback, because it does feel like a setback.
But isn't that part of the economy? One side comes up and the opposite also rises, so there's this rest.
Yes, but those opposites change. So what is considered the opposite of something else, that has evolved, and we don't have the same opposites that they had 2,000 years ago. So there were different opposites that were in play. The nuance of that, certainly the blatant ones are still the same. But so hopefully, what you're experiencing of the latest generation is.
Of course, also the majority of these are art students, so they're kind of known to be
A little more liberal, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like, what kind of class would be, weapons development or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Business or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily business, everybody wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, there will always be um, some sort of need to seek approval. Whether you have politicians seeking the approval of the electorate, so that, they and we see this. I remember, when the Tea Party was going strong, they had certainly different positions, but they were a very conservative wing of the Republican Party then, and so these cultural wars that we see are constantly raising up these opposites of this is right and this is wrong, and this right and wrong, these dualistic ideas certainly have their function. So we do need some guardrails, some guidelines, something on to attach to in order to operate as a culture. The same thing we do. If you go to Sesshin, there are rules. There are things you do and things you don't do. That's a form that everyone either agrees with or disagrees with. And but if you're going to Sesshin and you're paying money to do Sesshin, you go along with what you've decided to those particular forms, and you see that replicated all up and down the strata of culture, as that people have decided what's right and what's wrong. And so there's nothing inherently wrong with that. The question would be, who does it exclude? Who does it harm? And how does it function in application, in everyday application? And it can't remain stuck, because life isn't stuck, no matter how hard we try to stick it. No matter how many times we put a pin in it.
Tool again.
Life is constant change, and people want certainty. They want these concrete ideas, and so we work very hard to establish these concrete ideas, and nailing the 10 Commandments up in the classrooms, so that people have those rules. Thou shalt not, and ultimately we see how that harms people. I mean, we've seen these states that have the absolute anti-abortion rules and women have died as a result of that. Or, there's harm in these absolutes. There's harm in trying to remain stuck in some arbitrary, absolute that you kind of decided is the way it should be. And truly exemplified here, because Mayoku was right for Shokei in that moment, at that particular time. Got to Nansen, and he was wrong. So what do you do with that? How do you now flow with that? The willingness, and I appreciate people who are willing to be wrong, because I think that has to be part of this practice, is that you have to give up on what you think is right every minute, and be willing to be wrong sometimes, because you have to step into the new moment, the new experience, the new day, without, first of all, with letting go of what was before, because you moved on. You're new. The day is new. The situations are new. And to give yourself space, which is what my morning zazen is about. It's like, okay, new day. Let go of all that. Some of the things will carry over. Some of them will continue to work, but not all of them. And to greet the new day with your new self, with a new awareness, a new enlightenment. You're renewing that every moment, every single time. Mayoku, decided that, okay, this worked for one teacher, it should work for all of them.
Watching the Ken Burns Vietnam series, it's really amazing. But I realized, when we didn't, as Americans, didn't understand the paradigm that the Vietnamese were using, which was they had already won the war. They would never leave it. It's their country. They would pay whatever price they had to pay to maintain the integrity of their country. And so the Americans, we agreed, we lost a lot of people, 60,000. They lost 2 million.
Wow.
But the outcome of the war was never in doubt. They were going to win the war. They were going to get rid of the Americans.
Yeah.
It was a question of
When?
this decade, next decade, decade after that, the children's children. And that kind of, we as a country had no conception of a group, of a fighting force like that simply could not be beaten. They would never, ever surrender. And I wonder, I see the same thing going on in Iran right now. I mean, surrender what? Surrender who?
Yeah.
You don't have people on the ground there. So the whole thing is, the Iranians, I don't think, are ever going to surrender their country to the Americans. It's just, the question is wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Motivated.
but Americans want to be right.
I want to win.
Americans know that.
We know
That's the
that.
problem.
Yeah, we're very stuck in our
That's right.
our right democracy and our right rule of law.
The United States believes its own rhetoric.
Hmm?
The United States believes its own rhetoric.
Yeah.
Brits, we used to be the power back in the 19th century, not anymore.
Yeah.
So we're riddled with self-doubt now. Americans are not.
We're not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. I think we'll get there. So yeah, well, it used to be that the sun never set on the British Empire.
40% of the world's landmass.
Yeah.
So, we were right.
Yeah.
There's, the largest Iranian diaspora is in LA,
Mhm.
mostly around Westwood area, but all around LA. I have several friends they don't call themselves Iranians, they call themselves
Persians. Yeah.
And they may be 10 years or 50 years or, 2 generations out of Iran, but, that's still their homeland, it's still their culture. And what's interesting is with regard to what's going on right now, there is a huge disagreement among the Persian diaspora, whether it's good or bad or what's been happening, because they can see their families being massacred.
Yeah.
That old saying that revolution swallowed the children.
Yeah.
And so they can see that there's no win-win here.
Yeah.
It's,
It happened. I think we have seen this in every conflict, that the cultures that are directly affected never agree. And we've never agreed, on anything. But we've weaponized this rightness and keep causing a lot of harm as a result, without recognizing that whole spectrum and honoring that whole spectrum. Not that, so there's a cost to being stuck. There's a cost to this dualism. And that's the, sorry, I thought that was empty. So this, and I think that's what this koan, how deep this koan goes, is that not only this rightness of Mayoku, but the righteousness with which he now marches into someone else's chambers and circumnavigates. And how many times have the United States done this? We just march into, these countries with our rightness, and dictate that to the rest of the world without any understanding, and certainly not in the news of any of all the nuance that goes on with any of that. So it's this is this is a microcosm. This koan is a microcosm of the cost of that duality. And what do we do about it? What do we do with this? Because this is these koans are intended to break up that stuckness, and how now on an individual basis, on a daily basis, do we let go of that dualism? Do we live with the dualism, because the dualism exists, and dealing with people on an everyday basis, you're dealing with people who are in that dualism and think that is correct. That is the only thing they know. So how can you break that up within yourself, and then but know it intimately enough that you can meet people where they are and really let them in, and really be present with their situation, be present with the Iranians who are experiencing this upheaval for themselves and for their families and for that new experience that they're having. Be with the Palestinians and Israel. Just name your conflict. It has never been all right or all wrong, ever. But we keep trying to make it fit into that story, and that's where it fails. That's where it excludes, and that's where it causes harm. But we have to have that experience on where we are, where we stand, in order for us to help those who do suffer from that being stuck in it. So that's where this brings us back to is, what about us? What about our practice? What about our right and our wrong?
Yeah, how can we make Islam work for Americans? It didn't work for the monk going back into the other. It may have worked in one place, but it didn't work in
No.
another.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not. You can't rubber stamp it in any scenario, in any situation. Did Mayoku get it? It's hard to tell from this koan. He certainly had sense enough to question it. Shokai said I was right. What's wrong with you? How come you're making me wrong? But who's making who right and who's making who wrong? Where is the responsibility for that? Where is the responsibility for your enlightenment, your practice? It's certainly not with a teacher or anything outside of yourself. And if that's where we're looking for approval, it's the wrong place. So, where are you standing? Where do you stand? Where is your practice within yourself? And what are you doing about it? Because that's where the rubber hits the road, is everyday practice. It's only in that everyday practice that we then can apply that to the rest of the world, and go out and save the sentient beings that are suffering. And there's no end to their suffering, because we keep trying to, make the world like us, or like what we think we are, because it's even not like us, because there's no us. That is all alike. Trying to do that, and preach the gospel of the United States.
Do you have a hand up?
No,
Oh.
It does that. I don't know why. I've stopped lowering my hand because it keeps going up. All right. Any comments? Sandra, Kirk, Marcella,
I have a
questions? Please.
I just, in this conversation, I want to highlight that it's also a job to have
Sandra, you're breaking up. Can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
Sure. Is that
That's a little better. Keep going. Go ahead.
the people who are holding on to power so desperately are all they're doing that out of fear. They're doing that out of their own suffering. And
Yes.
so for us to sit here and judgment that whether we agree with it or not is also violent. Because it's part of our practice in this moment as it is and have compassion for all parties.
Yes.
And acknowledge their suffering real, even if you think that it's because of too much attachment and not reality.
Very true. Very true. Because they're suffering on both sides, or on all sides of that equation. Because certainly, and you see this in the Koan too, because Mayoku, who wanted to be right, is now suffering because he's now wrong. Those people trying to hang on or trying to rubber stamp or trying to be, move their rightness out into the rest of the world are also suffering, even though they're also causing suffering to other people, but they themselves. And good to remember that, and to be with that as well, be on that side of it. Thank you, Sandra. Anything else? Any other final questions, comments before we close? I don't know why my hand is up. I didn't raise it, but it's it's been doing that the last few times, and I just leave it.
It's because you have the AI on, and when you're talking with your hands and you put your hand up, it raises your hand.
Oh. Okay. Thank you. That makes sense.
And suddenly we were enlightened.
Yeah.
I know.
Raise your hand.
You know, when you have AI doing stuff for you.
Yeah, way ahead of you.
Yeah. All right. Let's finish for today. Thank you, everybody.